Okay, for the marker work, we're doing two different types of neutralizing of color, which is our achromatic effect and our chromatic effect. So with the achromatic, you're going to render the object first with gray, in this case with the cool grays. And now, like I showed you on that other demo, I'm going to take a color and go behind to create the color effect. So the colors that you use or how dark you go depends on how dark you go with your gray, depends on the color you're trying to neutralize. So for example, you see on this one, it's staying pretty light. So I might have even gone lighter with the marker, or I think what I'm going to do is switch to a deeper color here. Yeah, it's too dark probably, but let's see what happens. Just going to do a little bit of this and mix it through with the lighter one. So I'm just adding in this kind of more punchy color. But still trying to maintain the whites and also hold the mix with this lighter one to soften the tone. You start to see how it feels like the color is getting neutralized here. So let's keep working with it. Now we also have that Colorless Blender in our kit, so you can use that to help smooth out the color. So it's just like your paintbrush full of water. And trying to leave some white highlights. Excuse me. Okay, and then you always want to clean the tip out after you're done with it. Okay, so if we flip it over, we can see that we start to get some gradation and depth on that. Okay, excuse me. Now I'm going to use some color as an accent. So I'm going to add a little bit of green into the plant on top of the gray. Okay, when we have these wet onto wet effects, that's going to make things look shinier. Is that a word, shinier? I think so. This sounded funny when I said it. Okay, so I'm just adding a couple tones of green in here to get the palm tree to have some depth. Okay. And a little bit over here. All right, so you get the idea where you can take the color in with the gray to create what's called an achromatic neutral effect, okay? But now let's see how we can do it with just pure color. So that's what we call our chromatic neutral effect. And again, this is that chase here on page 92 of your workbook. So on this one, you might experiment. I've got the 291, which is this lighter aqua. Then I've got the 403, which is a medium. And then I've got this 407, which is just a little bit darker, okay? So you might experiment and just see that range before you start. Okay, so just like anything, we want to think our light's coming this way. So I'm going to start lightest by just taking this and adding it where I think I'm going to have some highlights. So where things kind of face toward the light or the edges of the item. On this side of the sofa or the chase. A little reflected color over here. Okay, so now I'm going to take the medium one, which is the 403, and this is the actual color of it like we used last time. So I'm going to work that in. But again, notice how I'm trying to leave some white on those top side edges. So I guess this is like a resort in Miami or something using this color. That's okay. I am ocean colors. So again, using this as most of the color. Just doing a wash, going the direction of the plane and then kind of smoothing it out. Going another direction. So again, notice how I'm bringing the strokes in vertically and then smoothing them out horizontally to help blend the color in. And remember to use a light pressure on the pen or on the marker so you don't get a big puddle going. So see how, even though I've got my white highlights, the color's reading a little bit flat. So I'm going to let it settle in for a minute, and I'm going to take some brown onto the table. And by adding a couple coats of that, create a wood tone here. Okay. Now I'm going to do something that's going to look pretty ugly. I'm going to take this brown and I'm going to put it in where I want the color to dull on the chase. So like underneath the pillow, behind the pillow, between the pillows, behind the pillow, where the cushions overlap. And in here, like underneath the welting a little bit. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is let that soak in for a second. And now I'm going to take my darkest for the 407 and go right back on top of that. So see how that's creating a darker, duller tone of the marker? So if you use it by itself, see how it's much brighter? And so this is what we mean by a chromatic neutral. It's the way the Impressionist painters would paint snow by using every color in the rainbow but not use white, right? It's all that reflected color, and I'm putting a little reflected color on the other side too. Okay, so again, now I want to let that dry for a second, let it settle in. Sometimes if you try to get there all in one spot, it won't work as well for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a little color to the plant while I'm waiting. Okay, a little reflected color over here. Okay, and then add another coat into the plant. Okay, and come over there. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with the original color, which was the 403, and just blend out from that dark neutralized color back to the field color to create the depth. to get some depth on it. Okay, I'm going to go back in with the brown on the table over here, inside console. The important thing is you want to make sure to leave your white so it feels like light's hitting edges, right? But I can also go back with my very lightest one again and just fill those in if you feel like you have too much white. So you can soften that effect a little bit, especially here on this side that's facing away from the light. I'm just going to take a few of those brightest highlights of white out, but leave them on this side that's facing toward the light more. Okay, starting to get some depth on it now and some drama. So even though I'm using color, I'm going to go ahead and neutralize with the warm gray again. Just to give it a counterpoint. Okay, so this is your chromatic neutral effect. We're using the color to neutralize the color, and notice it gets more vibrant. So again, it just depends on what kind of space you're trying to create. Are you trying to create something very vibrant, like a tropical resort? Or are you trying to create something a little bit more subdued? And then you'd use the achromatic effect, where you've got the gray neutralizing the color. So just experiment with both and see, how you can work with it. But honestly, I use the achromatic quite a bit myself, but the chromatic's nice when you want to give a little bit of punch to the scheme. Okay? All right, let's give it a try. Okay, so for your beginning of your assignment number 6, you're going to be doing your 2-point thumbnails for a bedroom, and you can use your SRIS book. On page 32, you can see that especially this bottom one could be a good background to get the thumbnail started. So you just trace that and then just add the bed. Remember, the thumbnail doesn't have to look like anything in particular to anyone but you. But so I just explored some different options here with, maybe a bed with an arched opening and a hanging Moroccan fixture, or a canopy bed, or maybe something like this with a built-in around it, more of a platform situation, or something that's more basic with a quilted, padded, or tufted headboard and some side lights and a big window. Okay, so you want to have at least like 3 to 5 thumbnails again. And then in addition to just drawing them out, you're going to take a few marker colors and just experiment. Like if I'm going to do this Moroccan one, maybe I'm going to do kind of a neutral palette. And so see how I'm just going to put some marker adjacent to the thumbnail. I'm not coloring the thumbnail, but I'm going to add in some bright accents of orange and blue, just kind of bring in some of those Moroccan feeling colors. On this one, I want to keep it more subdued, so I'm going to use a range of grays and whites, and then maybe just use some pink accents for the canopy bed one. So see how I'm just putting these little dots of color next to it, or you get the idea, so on and so on. Like maybe this one I'm going to use all grays with some blue, or on this one I'm going to do more neutral tones, bring in some taupes and browns. But you're going to experiment by putting some color adjacent to the thumbnail. And then you're going to pick your favorite idea and block it out, which we'll see on our next video. But before you block it out, one thing I might suggest is, while we're on the topic of color, go ahead and take some of your neutral colors. So I've got the N52, the N60, the N57, and then I did the 89, 79, and 49. And I just did some streaks of each of those colors. I labeled them so I remember which one they are, and then just try adding some different colors on top of that, front and back. So I flipped the paper over, I did a coat on the front and coat on the back, and then you can just see like which neutralizes that pink the best out of all of these. Well, I think the 89 and 79 seem to neutralize it best. This N60 gives us an interesting feeling that I might use again too, because this N60 has kind of a purple undertone. So that could be effective also. You can see with the blue, none of these warm tones neutralize it that well. But maybe the N52, which has this kind of a pewter tone, does. And same thing, interestingly, the pewter tone also neutralizes this violet very well. So again, you just never know. This is why I suggest experimenting with your colors prior to adding them to your drawing, so you have a good game plan before you start. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to block out the 2-point bedroom for the homework.